What's up guys, here at Pat's Acres again. We're gonna teach you today how to do a handbrake entry, a feint entry, and then a high-speed handbrake entry that uses a little bit of foot brake in the middle of it. So here's like basically the entry point of the turn. We're about 100 feet before the turn, and you're gonna go in pretty much twice as fast as you think you really need to go. Whenever you're pulling the handbrake, you always want to have your foot in on the clutch. You always have to have your foot in when you're using the handbrake. So you're going to come into the turn, steering again towards the outside, steering away from the turn slightly, turn your hand left, pull the handbrake while your foot is in on the clutch to get the car sideways, and then basically you're going to be counter steering as your handbrake is up. All right, so for the first part of this, you're going to drive into the turn, good speed, second gear, pushing your foot of the clutch, pull the handbrake up, steer left, get it to counter steer, and power through the turn. So you're pulling your handbrake, you're steering right to reduce angle, you're steering left to add angle while you're holding that handbrake, and your foot is in on the clutch the whole time. Right when you can get your nose pointed at the apex of the turn or where you want to be, you're going to keep that handbrake up but floor it so your car gets all the way up in the revs. And then when you're ready, and your nose is at that clipping point, ready to go, you're gonna dump the clutch and drop the handbrake at the same time. What that's gonna do is keep your tires, blow your tires up, get them spinning, and keep the car at a loss of traction. Get your foot on the clutch, push it in, handbrake, counter steer, clutch kick, and then just power through the turn on throttle. All right, so this is the third part of the turn. This is where it kind of, from here on out, is no different depending on how you enter. The speed of entry will decide where and when you have to let off the handbrake to dump that clutch at the same time. So a little bit longer e-brake if you feel like you're going too fast, a little bit less e-brake if you need to dive in, things like that you can actually adjust yourself. The other thing is, when you're dumping that clutch and dropping the handbrake, if you get on the gas and get too much wheel speed, just like during drift, you could potentially spin. If you don't have enough wheel speed, you could potentially straighten out. So another option is a feint drift. I don't usually recommend this, but it does work on high speed turns. Unfortunately here we don't have a lot of high speed turns, but I will still explain it so you guys can understand it. Basically what you're gonna do is you're gonna drive in very differently from the inside of the track, and you're gonna use the weight of the car to throw it in. This is an acceleration style of entering, so it's good for long turns, or if your car is not quite powerful enough, this will actually project you through the turn. So what you're going to do is start on the inside of the track and drive out towards the outside, basically throwing yourself towards the outside of the track. And then once the car feels like it's got some weight transfer to it, you're snapping it back the other way. So you're using all of the car's weight. And at that snapping point is where you throw in a quick little clutch kick. And basically what that does is it tosses you into the turn sideways, and then you can power through it. So for a feint, you're going to drive in all on the inside of the turn, and just use all the weight of the car to flick it in. So the most fun of all those is definitely going to be the high-speed e-brake, foot brake entry. And basically that kind of ties them all together and then adds the foot brake on top of it, a little bit more complicated. So what you're going to do is drive in absolutely way too fast. Essentially, you can go as fast as you want to do this. You just have to adjust how early you enter. And basically what you're going to do is similar to the handbrake. You're going to drive in, pull the handbrake, and get the car sideways. But the best way to do this is to actually use a little bit of the feint technique. And this will basically allow you to toss the car to angle quicker. Drive a little bit to your left and then flick to the right. And as you're going to the right to toss it into your left, you're going to do a quick handbrake drag to get it sideways. And then basically drag the handbrake to slow you down all the way into the turn. And this is the trick. You're going to go too fast so that you actually have to use your foot brake to keep the car slowing down. So while you're in on the clutch, because you always have your foot in on the clutch while you're pulling the handbrake, you're going to use your right foot that's normally on the throttle and press on the brake. And basically what you're doing, again, similar to the handbrake entry, is you're getting the car to that comfortable speed where it needs to be in the turn by using the foot brake. So we were normally handbraking into this turn about 35 to 40 miles an hour. We were coming in at a little bit over 60 for the handbrake, foot brake, and we were entering about 50 to 60 feet earlier than the handbrake. So it's fun. This is how you can get a lot of angle. It's going to take a lot of practice to do it, but using that handbrake to keep yourself stable, again, steering right to reduce angle, left to add angle, and then using the foot brake during that will actually slow the car down. Okay, for a high-speed entry, you're gonna go as fast as you can into the turn. And you're gonna pull the handbrake and use your foot at the same time. You're gonna pulse your foot on the brake so you're slowing the car down while you're getting into the turn. Oh, look at this beautiful 130 horsepower murdering car. Woohoo! Bone stock! I love it. It's so good. No one has any fucking excuses. Weld the diff. Don't do anything else. So this is kind of the second part of the handbrake, foot brake entry. We've already come in, we've got our e-brake started, we're at good angle, we're still pretty far from the turn, but hopefully we have enough speed to make it. If you can't, you'll basically just bail, straighten, and then try again. More speed, more speed, more speed. You can definitely get too much speed if you enter too late, but if you're always entering a little early, you can kind of work your way up to that point. At this point now, we're on the handbrake, we're tapping the foot brake to control speed. We're actually starting to see the entry of the turn and where the apex is, where we want the nose of our car, similar to the handbrake and the rest of the drifting. You're gonna be starting to really use the brake to slow the car down. Obviously, you don't want to smash on it, lock the front tires up. It's crucial to keep the tires in the front pretty planted during this. Again, we're steering right to reduce angle, we're steering left to add angle. When you use the foot brake, at some points in some cars, depending on how they're set up, it will add some angle. As you get your nose to the front end, again, handbrake up, clutch always in, tapping the foot brake, take your foot off the brake, back on the gas, and then when your nose is in line to where you need to be, you're dropping the handbrake and the clutch at the same time, breaking those tires loose, and then powering through the rest of the turn. On to be a normal. It's Josh, never slow steel. Probably wants some tips for his bro truck. First, you want to jack the car up. Take it out of gear. Make sure these spin freely. After you get inside, you can see we added this bar right here. This adds some leverage and gets it closer into a better position for pulling the handbrake. To adjust the handbrake, take an 8 or 10 mil socket. 99% of cars have an e-brake adjustment like this. You're gonna lift the e-brake up and get the socket on there and tighten it down. Now you want to tighten it down until the rear wheel, you can feel the brakes dragging just a little bit, and then you want to back it off so it's adjusted just right so that you can get the most amount of e-brake pull. They're a little bit tight right now, so I'm going to take a quarter turn back out and check it again and make sure we're good to go. So now that we're getting a little bit more complicated, I'm sure you guys have some questions. Go ahead and type them in the comments box below and we'll do our best to answer them for you guys. And then if not, go back, watch it again. Watch the handbrakes, watch the foot, everything we can do to try to make your drifting more fun at the track.